Today I'm building the ultimate LEGO World War I trench mock. This will be my biggest and my best LEGO build yet, but it's also going to be something that I've never tried before. I will be building the infamous Maginot Line. Now, my first LEGO World War I mock was this big. My second one was even bigger, so it's only right that my next build is even bigger. This is the base plate that I will be using for the build. But on this LEGO build, the trench will be built in this direction here, meaning that the Germans will be attacking from the front uphill into the Maginot Line. What could possibly go wrong? To really nail home the chaos and carnage of directly charging into the Maginot Line, I've been working on a few German LEGO World War I minifigures, specifically their postures, injuries, and the like. Check this out. This guy here has been shot in the head. His helmet is coming off, he is literally dying, and this is the chaos and carnage that you would experience if you charged the Maginot Line head on. Now, as you may have already guessed, this LEGO trench build is not supposed to be 100% historically accurate like some of my other videos, and there's two main reasons. First, I'm running out of LEGO parts, and second, because it's fun. Looking back at my original LEGO trench builds, I realized that they're packed full of detail and every inch of the build has something on it. That's because those were designed entirely by me, not constrained by a real image, and they were done on Microsoft Paint, which I know is very dumb. Fact! Now, as we speak, I'm currently also working on this historically accurate LEGO Battle of Stalingrad mock, and I'm also working on this LEGO North Africa campaign mock at the same time. So the main objective for this LEGO World War I build is simply to have fun, and also to see how far my building skills have developed since I first started the Scots Plastic LEGO channel. When this build has been completed, we'll then compare it to the first and the second LEGO trench builds, and you can decide which is the best. This one is going to be the best, I'll just tell you now. Now let's get back to basics and open Microsoft Paint. That's actually class. I've done a great job there. I would like there to be a very large, like, concrete fortification, and then also potentially two smaller concrete fortifications, and then also they're then connected with trenches that go at an actual angle as well. And maybe there's also like a couple of like frontal defense positions here. And then the Germans have got to attack up the hill, like so. And I should also mention that this LEGO trench build is not going to be like any of the other ones that I've built before, and I'll show you why. A traditional LEGO World War I build would either be dark brown or reddish brown, but actually if I come down here, I've basically not got any parts left. I've got some dark brown plates, but I've also got no wedges, and I'm just generally running low on these parts overall. However, I have got plenty of dark green, plenty of green as well, and the plates to match them. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this French LEGO World War I mock. Joining these guys in battle will be this really nice French machine gun team that are working together to get that gun and its tripod to the front line. We've also got this French World War I tank driver, which I don't really know how I'm going to use him. Also some two, this is why we're not using early war uniforms, because I only have two of them. We've also got a French pilot. Again, I don't have any French planes, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then of course we have 4 French Foreign Legion soldiers as well. Of course, they'll be added on top of our existing minifigures over here. Although I still don't think we're done, because there should be even more on this wall. Yes, okay, so we have a German major over here, which we will use. Also, another French Foreign Legion soldier over here, the 5th one, which we will grab. And this guy here with a bayonet as well. Let's grab him. And now with our minifigures collected and ready to go, it's finally time to start the build. I've also been preparing a couple of different drop-in plates, because what we will do, whilst the ground is going to be green and dark green, the craters down in this bottom area here will of course be a reddish brown. Quick shout out to our new channel partner, Instant Gaming. Use my link in the pinned comment or the video description to get the games you love without having to sell your kidneys. Instant Gaming has a Trustpilot score of 4.7 from 750,000 reviews, but if that wasn't enough, I can personally recommend them, and as we all know, my word is final. Thank you, Instant Gaming. Now go click the link and get some cheap games. I've developed a brand new build technique for realistic LEGO bomb craters. If you want a tutorial on how to build Lego bomb craters like me, you can't have one, it's a secret. And would you look at the results? Now, let me introduce you to General Burnface and what I imagine most of you watching this video look like. Now, later in the video, General Burnface will be sending you to your death, so keep watching the video to find out which crater your decaying corpse is left in. Now, quite clearly, there's a big difference between General Burnface and you, the viewer. Oh my god. Oh no. I have just made a horrible realization. As it turns out, you, the viewer, have in fact been... Yeah, that's right. You have in fact been taken control of by Lord Voldemort, unfortunately. Also, look at the orange. I've been eating oranges, bro. It's under my nails. I wouldn't recommend it, but I've had about 6 oranges today, so... Thankfully, this tower of severed heads just arrived, and I'll probably start using these guys for decaying corpses on the battlefield. Now, don't worry, I haven't forgotten that this is supposed to be a LEGO World War I mock, and it's not just going to be brain rot. In fact, it's not even going to look like this. The only reason I use these colors is to show you, roughly speaking, the color that I'm going to be using for the Imagino line, like the surface, once we've built the hill. But I'm going to start building this up. There's going to be some steep elevation. Now, I have also been developing a brand new trench design for this LEGO World War I mock. As you can see, the trench is going to span the entire LEGO mock, and that's just the front trench. We're going to have reserve trenches and bunkers up here that this is going to connect down into, and the Germans will be attacking in this direction. Now, on closer inspection, to show you what I've actually done and how I've designed it, this trench has specifically been designed to twist and turn to get a more natural shape. So you can see I can simply move it like this to get the shape that I want, and then I can build around it. Now, we've introduced the German general, General Burnface. I think it's about time we introduce the French general. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the French general, absolutely chowing down on a cigar. Now, I haven't come up with a name for him yet, so I'll have to give that some thought. Now, you may have already noticed that this is in fact a French World War I pilot from United Bricks, not a general. You may have also noticed that I don't care because today he's a French World War I general. I've decided to go with the name General Pilot Cigar. Yep, for obvious reasons. So, yet again, the Anne plan has changed. What you've just seen is a time-lapse of me redesigning the trench system, because when I started to play around with this, and when I started to really break it down, I very quickly realized this was just going to be way too complicated and completely not necessary. What I've decided to do is just simplify the trench system a little bit, but by using these reddish-brown triangular plates, you can still get that natural kind of curving trench aesthetic. As you can see, it turns here, and then it's going to go down at the bottom, and then one bit's going to go left, and of course the other bit's going to go right. Overall, we're still not going to have a completely straight, really unnatural looking trench. We can still get curves just by adding a few 45 by 45. Now again, these are actually going to be at 2 separate heights, and also you'll see I've actually put together just a very rough bunker layout so you can have a rough idea of where this trench is actually going to go. So it's going to go uphill, and then there's going to be a bunker here. Now, I've also got this one over here, which again, the exact same thing, but it's going to be at a separate orientation. And then we'll line the back with trees as well, because remember, this is not your traditional World War I LEGO mock, because we've not got a no man's land blown to bits tree aesthetic. This is the Maginot Line, the very start of the war, before everything's gone to hell. Now, part of the reason why I've made that change is because if you come back and you look at this, like, yes, that might have worked, but actually, if you look at just how many actual parts you need in order to get that working effectively, I just don't have enough parts, to be honest. Like, I could get a couple of nice looking trench parts out of that, but look how many connectors this actually requires. Basically, after actually going through and trying to give that a try, I just realized, I mean, look, I'm already running out of these connectors, and I'm probably going to run out of several more before we actually get the entire trench done. So we're going to simplify things and get it moving. Now, as I just showed you, I've also been playing around with creating bunkers, and I've been thinking, how is the best way to do it? I think I'm going to create large, big, square bunkers, like substantial machine gun positions, and one of them will be artillery, but I was also toying around with the idea of like one of those inbuilt tank turret Maginot Line defenses, which if we take our lovely Renault FT over here, simply pop off the turret on that bad boy and stick him down, something like this. Do you know what I mean? Like, we could potentially get something a bit more substantial substantial with that sort of similar aesthetic. Now, what you may have also noticed is that my background has now changed. We've got all of our upgraded minifigures over here, soon to be the second silver play button when Scots Plastic are almost past 100,000 subscribers. That will go here next to the main channel plaque, and of course Britain's Want You behind here. Now, what you didn't see is when I was doing the actual time lapse, when I was building this new trench system, I had a lovely new painting on my door which just completely fell off and broke, so it's a shame. Okay, progress is being made, and as you can see, we've now lined the trench wall with a bit of material up front so you get an idea of the depth. Now, this is the important bit. This will make sense in a second. I'm going to slide this trench wall on the inside here. Now, all we need to do is build the wall behind it up ever so slightly, cover it over, and we have ourselves a functional trench wall. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take that aesthetic and we're going to make sure we build that the whole way around on the trench here, and then of course you can see we started to get these walls up on the trench purely just for elevation. We will then build the entire trench into the ground, and in case it wasn't obvious how I was actually doing that here, I do want to show you. So notice I've got these basically handrails, so to speak. Those are simply just to hold this part. It holds it between the wall and that rail. It can also be used as a firing step later on so that the French can fire out of the trench. Now, you'll also see around here, I've also added a bit of height and depth so we go up 2 entire bricks, and you can see that over here because the bunker's on suspenders, and we will then gradually build up to this so that the trench elevates ever so slightly. So how did I actually manage to make that? It's really quite simple. All I've done is I've just got a whole bunch of these and connected them end to end. Now, the difficult bit is finding a solution that works for both the horizontal, like so, as well as the diagonal, because for some reason it's just really difficult in LEGO. However, I will show you that yes, this solution does in fact work for both the diagonal as well as the horizontal. I just need some more handrails down the side here, but it works. Realizing it was crunch time, I got to work building much of the outer terrain support around the MOC, and this is the result. I've removed the placeholder green terrain modules, clearly defined the areas that the bunker will be built into, developed the terrain around the edge of the MOC following the outline of each of the trenches, and I've also distributed the 5 craters around what will soon be the direction of the German attack. Next, I got to work mass producing the trench walls by connecting together a huge pile of modified 1x4 bricks, which, when placed on their side, look like logs stacked up on top of each other. Once enough of these were built, I started slotting them into the trench walls one at a time. Suddenly, this LEGO World War I MOC is starting to come to life. Of course, there's still gaps, and yes, it needs to be further refined, but it's now much more clear where this build is going. The trench is approximately 8 studs wide, but it's also deep enough for a minifigure to both take cover, but also firing over by standing on top of the firing step. And now I'm starting to blend the top of the trench into the supporting bricks around it. After even more building, this is where we got to. Now, it's been a while since we've tried this. It's time for a pickup test. This could go very badly wrong. Bloody hell, how do I... Aha! I can't even get closer to the screen because it's not gonna fit. Hopefully now this gives you some idea of just how big this LEGO MOC actually is. That right there could have been the end of the video. So what's actually changed with the build? I prepared the foundations in the deepest areas at the back of the build, ready for the terrain to be built over the top. I've also raised the black wall around the edges of the build to match the profile of the terrain, and I've started work on both bunkers. Ah! I stepped on a Lego. Now, speaking of these bunkers, I've specifically designed them so that both are removable. Now, the way that I've built these bunkers allows me to slot them in between the outer walls, and they're resting on top of a series of plates, which is great because it allows me to take the bunkers out of the position and work on them in much greater detail. And to give you some idea of what I've been doing, you can see this absolute horde of Lego over here. Now, so far, I haven't done that much, but what you can see is I've begun to add some machine gun windows and just a little bit of detailing. For example, bullet holes, some cracks. It still requires a lot of work, but again, it's going to allow me to work on this separately because I can just pull it out whenever I need to. And yes, General Burnface has for some reason made his way into French territory, even though this is supposed to be, hold on, let me get him actually. It shouldn't be General Burnface, instead it should be General Pilot Cigar, I think was his name. Now I'm still not precisely sure what kind of bunker aesthetic I'm gonna go for, whether or not we make it look a bit more like a World War II concrete bunker, or we go for a rigid World War I aesthetic. But before I make that decision, it would probably make sense to first build the rest of the terrain into the mock, and that will then give me the information that I need to figure out what the bunker needs to look like in order to match the surrounding terrain that it's built into. Which, yes, you guessed it, means another building time-lapse. First thing I did was surface the backside of the mock with a dark green foundational terrain. Then I started slapping together the scaffolding for the next chunk of building, which allowed me to move around to the front side of the mock and begin surfacing that with dark green plates as well. Though eventually I did run out of dark green plates, which meant I had to begin salvaging the modules which were used in the LEGO World War II board game. Okay, it's about time for a battlefield update. Straight away you can see that I've made the entire area green, so this is going to be an early war World War I Maginot Line mock, which is why you've got a couple of craters, but it's by no stretch of the imagination no man's land. Now let's take a closer look. As you can see, we've got some more bonding from General Burnface and you, the viewer, and also I believe he was called Cigar Mustache Man, is in what is now, roughly speaking, a bunker. Overall, you can see that the entire landscape here is fresh battlefield material. It's only got a few small craters, which I have kind of made reddish brown, and I've done my best to blend them into the actual battlefield itself. But overall, the mock is just ready for a little bit of detailing. Now, it's been a while since I've tried this, so let's do a pickup test and see if it falls apart. There we go, pickup test. I can't get closer to the camera than this. So that was a successful pickup test. The next thing we need to do is add detail. Basically, there's a lot to do, so I'm gonna just start doing it. It's incredible what a tiny bit of detail can do to a build, and speaking of detailing, this is where things come to life quickly. Now obviously the bunker on the left and the right is still missing. We'll finish those off in a second. The terrain is looking a lot nicer. Now to my left hand side, I've got sandbags, I've got crates, I've got a bunch of detailing, and of course barbed wire. Once I get all of that down, this is going to look more like a World War I LEGO trench mock. What do we think? What's the consensus? I'm not totally convinced. It's kind of like quite irregular, which is good. What I've tried to do is I've tried to overlap them in like a bit of an irregular, strange way. However, what we're going to do is we're going to trust the process. This is all about trusting the process and hoping it doesn't look awful once the job's done. I guess the question is, do I have enough barbed wire? Okay, so there's our answer. As it turns out, we do in fact have enough barbed wire to cover the front line, and we've actually got some spare, so I'm going to time-lapse placing the rest of it down now. And this is the result of the second layer of barbed wire with the sandbags behind it, and yeah, I may have got a bit carried away, and I've also done the plants and vegetation behind the trench line, and I've got to say, it's starting to come together very nicely. I still need to do this left bunker and the right bunker, and of course you'll notice that I keep forgetting that this guy has got two faces, which is slightly horrifying, but we need to get the minifigures down. Now, we've got a whole bunch of French guys over here on this old basic World War I LEGO mock, and we've got a couple of German minifigures, especially these upgraded guys behind again, with a man being murdered by his own team for some reason. What I've also got though is I've got a big box of World War I minifigures which need to be assembled and placed onto the base plate. So first things first, we're going to do all the minifigures, then we're going to do the right bunker, and then eventually the left bunker. And then this should look like a pretty nice Maginot Line mock. Okay, now we're starting to make some pretty serious progress, and yes, it's time for another pickup test. Now my plan was to bring it close to you so I could show you it, but we'll see how that goes. Oh my god, it's absolutely enormous. So all of these Germans here are going to be joining General Burnface and you in the assault on Maginot Line front wall. So let's get to it. Now let's move on to the French defenders. Now, of course, we've not done the left or the right bunker, but we'll do that at the end. We'll put the French Foreign Legion and the early war minifigures into the bunker, but these guys dressed in blue uniforms will be in the trenches. As you can see, this is starting to get pretty good. I'm quite happy with how it's all coming together. And I do think I'm going to keep this Renault FT in this building because we've got a French tanker minifigure rather. Now let's crack on with actually building the bunkers themselves. Now originally, you can see I wanted to do these kind of this irregular shaped wall, but I really don't like how it doesn't quite fit. You see this little bit here? And then also, you're gonna have this like nasty bit on the side which I haven't accounted for either. So I suspect that what these bunkers are going to be is very blocky and square, but so be it. Now with the bunkers done, let's take a look. On the left hand side we have bunker number 1, which will slide into place like so. And on the right side we have bunker number 2 with a Renault FT crammed inside, which again will slide in place like so. And this right here is the LEGO, it's so heavy, is the LEGO World War I Maginot Line alternative history, Germans attacking straight through the middle of the Maginot Line. And by the looks of it, doing quite well. To be honest, there's not that many French defenders. You can't tell me that it's not a massive LEGO World War I mock. The Maginot Line here comprised of a bunker on the left, a bunker on the right. Now, I will admit, this doesn't look very World War I-esque, and actually, if you take a closer look, the Renault FT can barely even fire out of it. However, I'm pretty happy with this unique take on LEGO World War I mocks because it doesn't look like a traditional bombed-out no man's land, like, for example, that kind of terrain over there. So let's have a quick look at the unique minifigures. This gentleman here is about to breach over the top and burn a bunch of dudes. We've got a French machine gun team here with the guy with the tripod behind running up into the middle. We've also got one very brave French soldier breaching over the top of the trench towards the Germans, and the Germans are basically just going to launch a whole ton of grenades over the top. Throughout the trench line, we've got a bunch of French minifigures trying to reposition so they can get an angle on the enemy, and this German soldier is throwing a grenade into the middle, but he has been spotted. We've also got a machine gun team being led in by the officer over here. This machine gun team is going to try and set up to get an angle over the top here. However, a gentleman hiding in a crater over here has lost all of his weapons and is asking these two submachine gunners with MP18s for supports. Further along on the left-hand side, we've got a casualty of war, unfortunately stuck and being dragged away by a medic from a crater, but this guy's decided that he's not going to make it and just decides to get the job done. Efficient, to say the least. This guy's fallen over. That's not intentional, though. And right at the back of the LEGO mock, we've got one French soldier who was out for a poo, and he's come back to see that there's a giant, well, massive trench charge directly into the Maginot Line, which he definitely was not ready for. If you enjoyed this video and if you like this LEGO World War I trench mock, make sure you subscribe down below so you don't miss the Stalingrad video that I'm working on next.